The Backyard Naturalists podcast is presented by Backyard Birds in Matthews, North Carolina. Backyard Birds offers a unique in-store shopping experience highlighting the joy and excitement of attracting wildlife with the finest quality seed and the best quality bird feeders, bird houses, bird baths, and more. Bringing people of all ages together with nature and wildlife, Backyard Birds has everything you need to create your own backyard natural habitat. Connect with Backyard Birds at thebirdfoodstore.com or on social media. Now, here's Debbie and Laurie, the Backyard Naturalists.
Welcome to the Backyard Naturalists, the podcast about anything and everything related to nature. Sometimes it seems like all the news is bad, and especially if you're an environmentalist, that there's just a lot of things that are being damaged because of how we live, because of values, because of natural disasters. So what I've been looking at lately is what we can do, kind of thinking about it from a different perspective. I want to talk about monarch butterflies today. If you have not heard about the monarch butterfly population, you must be living like a hermit, because it's really hard to turn on the computer or pick up a newspaper or a magazine and not hear something about it. And one of the reasons is because the news is bad. Another reason is because just recently, the counts of the monarch butterflies were released. They do this once a year, and I want to talk about that, and we're going to look at trends in this, and then we're going to say, okay, fine, what can we as individuals do? So let's get started with this. So there, just as background information, there are two different populations in the United States of monarch butterflies. One is called the eastern, and they spend their winters in Mexico, and they are counted by a different organization than the western variety. The eastern ones are counted by World Wildlife Fund. They have not yet released their data. So we'll see what happens with that population. It's not necessarily true that what's true of the western population is true of the eastern population, or vice versa. We'll see. The western population is east or west of the Rockies. That's how that one's defined, okay? That has been released. So we're going to start looking at what they talked about. Let's get going on that.
So this is from the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation.
Yep.
And that's 28 years of data?
Yeah, I always want to look for data. So 28 years is a pretty impressive thing. So we're just going to kind of hit a couple of highlights here. Brace yourself. There's good news and there's bad news here. Well, there's good news and some less good news and really bad news. In 1997, they counted 1.2 million butterflies in California as part of the annual counts.
2020 was a record. Was that the record low?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And what was the number that they counted?
1901.
Yeah, 1,901. They went from 1.2 million in 97 to 1,901 in 2020. In 23, it jumped way up. It went to 233,394. And we've been waiting on the 24, and it's out. 9,118. I say that again, 9,118. That is the second lowest ever reported, and it represented a 96% decrease from the previous year. So this is part of what sparked all this talk about, oh my goodness, what's going on? What are we going to do? What can we do? What is happening here? So let's talk about the status of the monarch, because you can look at this from different organizations.
From the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, 1224 proposed that the monarch be listed on the endangered species list.
Right. And remember I said we were going to talk about what we can do? I got something across my email account that said, would you please sign this petition? So we are going to put a link on our Facebook page, and it's only good until March 12th, so I don't know when we'll get this out. We'll put it on the Facebook page so they can see it now. But it's called Act Now for Monarch Butterflies. It's by the National Wildlife Federation. We are asking that you sign this petition. What they're trying to do is put this this organism on the endangered species list because it provides additional protection. So it's a step toward helping it potentially recover from these devastating numbers. There's a second organization that is also working with this, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And this was something from 2022, so a few years back. But they, at that point, added it to what they call the red list, and that's a list of threatened species that they maintain. And at that point, it was categorized as endangered by that particular organization. So we've got one proposed addition to the endangered species list and one that's already on an endangered species list. Why is this happening? What is going on here? It's really amazing to see this change in the numbers. So let's look at some of the causes.
Well, the big one is lack of milkweed.
Yeah.
A host plant for the monarch, which it is a host plant for the monarch, but caterpillars.
Yeah. If you only eat one thing and you don't have any of that around, you're not going to survive. So that's an important thing. According to the Monarch joint venture, there were other things as well, such as drought, wildfires, agricultural development, and urban development. Now, I'm asking you, as we go through that list, do we have any personal control of drought, wildfires, agricultural development, and urban development? Precious little, if any, right? Okay, but that's not the worst. We've got others.
And from the Xerces Society, it was pesticides.
Pesticides.
That has to be one of the biggest ones.
Yep, and can we control the use of our pesticides in our yard? Yes, we can. Can we plant milkweed in our yard? Yes, we can. So that's the good news. Now, from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, a press release that they put out, they're saying that the impacts are caused by loss and degradation of breeding, migratory, and overwintering habitat, exposure to insecticides, and the effects of climate change. One of the studies specifically mentioned that they don't do well in temperatures, I think it was over 100 degrees. And in one of the major breeding areas, it had hit something like 108 at one point. So I hadn't seen that before. That was kind of interesting. And again, we don't have personal control over that, but we can support organizations that do something about it. Now, big question. What can we as individuals do? What do we have control over? What can we do? From the Monarch joint venture called Create Habitat for Wildlife, they offer some ideas.
Plant milkweed. That's the first one would be good.
Yep, we've heard that before already, huh?
Only native in your area. And don't dilute the good by using non-native.
Right.
Which happens a lot.
It does. And if you go to some of the nurseries that aren't as well informed about native plants, they will try to talk you into using things that are not native. So this is not good. We need the native plants, and we need to make sure that they have not been treated with insecticides. Another thing that you can do, you definitely want to plant the milkweed. You got to plant the milkweed. But you can also plant a really big variety of native pollinator plants. And you will have to find a native plant society in your area so that you can find out what is native in your area, what grows in your hardiness zone, what grows where you are in the world. So you want to be thinking along the lines of colors, get a huge variety of colors, because some native pollinators are grown to different types of colors, so orange and red and yellow and white. Plant a variety. Make sure you get a huge array of bloom times, because you're going to get more enjoyment out of it that way. And the pollinators are also going to take advantage of early bloomers through late bloomers, so you can do that. If you need a source for native pollinator plants in your area, we're going to publish this as well. Again, Monarch Joint Venture, or MJV, they have a milkweed and wildflower vendor map. So you can type in, I think it was your zip code, and it will give you a list. So that's awesome.
Say no to chemicals in your yard.
Yep.
That helps. That helps with a lot of things.
If we don't do that, I think that this is doomed, and probably a lot of other things, because we can't plant milkweeds and then kill it with insecticides.
Create a no-mow area so that the pollinators aren't disturbed.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be huge, just a little corner of your yard.
Yeah, Chris.
Like Chris.
Reduce lawn, Chris.
Yeah. And then educate your neighbors. And this is a touchy subject. Heaven knows it's a touchy subject. But
my pet peeve.
Yeah, mosquito sprays. I've talked to 3 entomologists. I've said this before on this program. The mosquito sprays are non-discriminatory pesticides that kill anything it comes into contact with. So it's not just killing mosquitoes, it's killing beneficial insects, which we do not want to do. And it's also poisoning what feeds on insects, which is baby birds, with the exception of the goldfinch. Offer a native plant or two. If you've got extras, if one of your native plants is making babies or it's spread a little bit, share it with somebody. Let them have the joy of learning about native plants. And if you make the behavior easier on people, they're more likely to do it. So a free plant that you take to their house is a good way to get that started. Have a native plant giveaway or sale. If you think that you can do that, and in your neighborhood, maybe get a native plant grower in to have a sale or a giveaway for people who, like, I know a lot of the native plant people are very, they're friendly people and they're generous people. So they'll frequently say, hey, do you want some? And they'll throw out 2 or 3 names. And if I already have it in my yard and I don't need any more, I'll say no. But if it's something I don't have, I'm going to jump on it every single time. So that's awesome.
And the sale at Backyard Birds in April.
Sale at Backyard Birds?
There is, April 26th.
And who's going to be selling these native plants, Sarah?
Carrie DiGiaco.
Okay. And what is the name of her company?
For the birds and bees.
For the birds and the bees. And do you know what hour she's going to be there?
11 to 1.
Okay. And this is her second time at the store, right?
And she's pretty much sold out the first time she was there. So be there.
I think we have trained people who come to your store with educational events to support these things. And so it makes me happy to think about the long-ranging effects of all these people that maybe didn't know about native plants.
Right.
And they've met Lisa and they've met Carrie, and now they have native plants in your yard, and they show up for these things, and they show up early, and they show up ready to shop. It's awesome. If you have a chance to sign the Monarch pledge during the public comment period, please do it. Watch for other possibilities of doing things like that. I get a feed with quite a few opportunities, both from National Wildlife Federation, North Carolina Wildlife Federation frequently offers them as well. So a big question. This is horrible news. There's just no other way around it. This is not good news. 96% decrease in a year's time, not good news. Can it be reversed? Good question, right? One thing we know with absolute certainty is if we do nothing, the answer is probably no. Okay, we can't. Anything we do for monarchs will also support tons of native pollinators and is good for the overall environment. So there's nothing that's not appealing about that. You're supporting things on so many levels. So I'm going to throw out a challenge. I'm going to throw down a challenge. Let's all commit to doing at least 2 things from the list that we provided. At least 2 things. That's not big, okay? One of them could be signing your name to a petition, so that doesn't take an awful lot. But let's commit to doing 2 things from the list. If you do these 2 things from the list, okay, make sure you write us and tell us what you chose to do and why. And if you live within driving range of Backyard Birds, located in Matthews Festival Shopping Center, next door to Dairy Queen, you know the drill now by that, and you come in and you tell Laurie what 2 things you have done, we will offer the first person that does that a very special gift. How's that?
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds good because we got some really good gifts that we need to start giving away.
I'm gonna do 2 things. No, I already do them. Okay.
And I am going to throw this out there. We had somebody, a wonderful company called Anderson Promotional Products, that sent us some really nice gifts to give away to people. So if you have any promotional needs, you can find Anderson Promotional Products online. All right, I think that wraps this one up. We've been talking about monarch butterflies and the news, and not the good news that's coming out, and doing a little bit of analysis and looking at things that we can do, things that we can control, and hoping that everybody bands together to do this, because we can. We can do this if we band together. I'm Debbie.
And I'm Laurie.
We're the Backyard Naturalists, and we're signing off.